Hey there and welcome to Matt's Garage. So today I'm working on my 2004 PT Cruiser and I'm actually going to be replacing the left hand axle shaft. So the CV axle, you can see I've already removed the 32mm nut here. Normally there's a thick washer behind the nut as well, so watch for that. This one's been replaced before, so it's using this aftermarket nut instead. Can see here the problem with my axle is the boot is ruptured there. You can see the grease has all come out. You can see that play right there. That is actually in the joint, and when I twist it, there's a little bit of rotational play too. As well, I was getting a vibration under acceleration, like under load. So that's really a symptom of a bad axle. Not that big of a deal here. Actually, you just have to take the nut off. You take these upper two bolts out. They're 21mm, I believe, on both sides, and then they've kind of got a spline in there. Drive them out. This thing flips right forward. You do have to take the brake off. You don't have to take the tie rod off. You want to take the caliper off at these at the main bracket here. So these are 18mm bolts. You can leave these tight here. You don't need to take it off the bracket. You need the whole bracket off to get the rotor off. So you drive those out, and then you have to get the brake off, and then this whole thing will come out. You don't have to disconnect the tie rod ending. You don't have to disconnect the lower ball joint. You can just swing this all out, push the axle out, and then we have to pry the axle out of the housing there because there's just like a C-clip that locks it in there, and then just slide the new axle in and reverse the procedure. It's pretty simple actually, but I'll show you here. Okay, I put some lube on those, and I got my 21 and my 21, so I'll spin those off. If you have to beat on the end of this too much, just thread the nut back on to about there. Like, don't just thread it on a turn or two, because then it will still mushroom the threads on the end. Now you can see that'll slide out. Okay, so we got our 18mm on there. I'm just going to remove the caliper bracket. Go. Okay, so we've got the brake out of the way. We can just that's stuck on there. Okay, now that we got all that off, we can just flex this over and pull this right out. See, now your axle's out here, free of the hub. Okay, you can see I'm over on the right hand side of the car now, and I've got the long axle pulled out of the hub. So again, you just have to pop off the brake caliper completely, and just the strut. You don't have to take the lower ball joint or the tie rod end off. And then I just got to get back in there with the pry bar and pop it out. Well, okay guys, I hope you can see that. So here's the axle here, and you can see on this side you can very easily get in there with the pry bar. I'm only going to be putting used axles in today as well, but still I can show you the process, exactly how you do it. And it's actually pretty simple over on this side. And anyways, you get the bar, and behind here you should have a drip pan under here too. I didn't want to have that in my way too. And you pop that out. Now it's nice to kind of guide it on the other end with your other hand if you can. Bit shorter pry bar. Okay, now if you actually, oh, I'm having a heck of a time here, but if you push in and then you gotta kind of snap it. There we go. So I hope that showed. I hope I wasn't too in the way there, but we did get that loose. There you go. Okay, so this part's proving a bit difficult here. I got this pry bar I thought maybe I could, you know, hook it with. Okay, so this might be the answer, guys. I got my channel locks around there, and I'm gonna hopefully just pry out against them now. So this might be the way. There we go, that's the inside. Your CV joint looks like it's basically got 3 little protrusion shafts, whatever, with bearings on them that spin in a socket there. Well, okay then, I've got my vice grips hooked on there. That was my plan in breaking that off. Now I can hook those in there and hopefully have something to pry against here. Okay guys, I've actually got a pair of vice grips locked on there now. I knocked the boot right off so I could grab right to metal. And they're on there firmly, so I got a pry bar against them. It can't really slip, and then I'm going to try and kick it off with my feet actually. This lets me keep my head out of the way, and my legs are stronger than my arms. Well guys, I don't know what to say. I have taken these axles out with a lot less trouble before, but I am struggling with this particular one. I've just tried to set up the vice grips a little different to get a bit different bite on it. It might depend which way the snap ring is rotated in there. It might give way a little easier from one direction than the other, so I'm just going to give this a try and hope for some better success. I am prying against a wood block the whole time, so I'm not scarring up the transmission housing at all. Well, that didn't work out so well. Look at that, guys. Cracked the lens on my oh, you can't see that with it on. I cracked the lens of my light with that pair of vice grips. They flew and hit it. And the darn axle still didn't pop loose. I've never had an axle fight like this. I looked on YouTube there and I couldn't find... I found one other guy who did have this kind of problems with his PT, and he used a slide hammer ultimately. The OEM axle, the factory axle, you can actually reach in here beside it with a skinny pry bar and get under it. Well, okay, on to plan B. I really don't care how stubborn this axle gets, I'm more stubborn. So this is my slide hammer. I actually built it myself. Just a homemade deal I made for pulling dents. But it'll work for this. I just put this as a piece of an arm off an old puller actually. Nice and solid, and I can clip that onto there with the vice grips hopefully. Get a good bite on there, and then I moved the whole spindle assembly out of there. I removed it. I'm replacing the bearing anyway. And now I have direct access. Hopefully you can see what's going on. This is going to be a little tricky to get in here and get this clipped. Oh, it's so greasy in there, it's hard to get a good bite. Well guys, I'm kind of at the end of my rope here. And so I'm getting out the heavy artillery. What's basically happening is when I pry on it with like vice grips latched on it or whatever, it keeps prying sideways. So I'm going to grind a notch through the side of it in the thinnest area here. That'll give me a place to put the tip of my pry bar and really get a good bite on it. So I'm just attempting this now that I have the notch in there. It took a little bit to get the right amount of stuff in there to get the right angle on it, but I think we're going to get it here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Unfortunately, the camera was not rolling, and I did get it out. There's the notch that I ground through it, and that's what got it out. I got my tip of my pry bar hooked in there, and I had a 2x4 to lever against so I didn't wreck the transmission housing. And I have no idea why it was so stuck. Let's have a look here. Oh boy. You can see that was hooked so bad there that it's mangled the C-clip there. It looks like this C-clip is, well, it's a little bit spread on the ends. I don't know how it looked when it went in, but maybe a faulty clip, not quite the right dimensions. You can see how far it sticks out there, and that's what was happening. It literally twisted it. So I hope I don't have any shards of metal in the transmission there. I'm going to have a close look in there with a flashlight. I'll just show you the difference here. This is a OEM axle, an original one. You can see how it's got that triangular shape to it, and you can see those marks right there. So that's where I actually pried this one out. This is a used one I took out, and it pried out pretty easily. Even once I had this notch in here, this one was not coming out no how. I've got this nice used axle here. It's in really good shape. The joints are nice and tight and lubricated, and the boots are still good. So I'm just going to clean it up quick here, get a little brake clean, and really hose that off, because it's just been sitting on my shelf and there's dust collected all in the spline there. And just give it a quick wipe here. And then the other thing I want to do, and I want to point out, is right here. That's the surface where the seal rides, and you can actually see where the seal last rode on that surface. So we don't want that. What we're going to do is take some emery paper. This is 400 grit. Not even that fussy on the grit, but 400 is a good grit. And we'll take a little bit of 3-in-1 oil, and just drip it all over the paper and all over this, and we're just going to polish this. You want to always make sure that you're doing this lubricated like this. Okay, and that should be enough. You can see those marks are pretty well gone now, and that'll just give your new seal or your used seal, whichever you're using, the best chance of sealing. So now you just make sure that the area is clean, and you literally just slide the new axle, and it couldn't be much simpler. Just be careful not to rub the axle on the seal or the spline or anything. Just try not to contact the seal, and just get it in there as straight as possible. I'm going to have to use 2 hands on it here. I'm trying not to get in the way of the camera. There we go. You can see that latched in. So that's all there is to installing your axle. Now I just have to get the hub assembly back. You don't have to take the hub assembly off. Just like I did on the other side, you just swing it out of the way. I was actually changing the wheel bearing on this side at the same time. I'm just going to wipe that off a little bit. Don't want to get any dirt in the transmission. And now we're going to feed our new axle in. Since this is the long axle, I'll start feeding it in from out here. Careful not to get dirt on it. Don't forget it's going inside your transmission. And I'll just feed it in until it just sort of fits in there. And then I'll get in there and put it in. So you do just spin it a little as you're pushing it in to line up the spline, and then it should just want to go in from there. I'm just going to get out there and push right on the end of it. Okay, it's all lined up, so I'll just give her a good heave. There we go. Snapped right in. Okay, so now we're just going to put it back through the hub and everything. That's just a reverse of how you took it apart. So yeah, but the one vital thing that you will need to know is this axle nut in the center here gets torqued to 180 foot-pounds. So make sure you do that. If you don't torque that properly, it can wreck your wheel bearing. Okay. There we go. If you're having trouble getting these bolts in as I am right now, just get a long pry bar. You can stick it under the subframe, the K-frame there, and just pry down a little bit on the control arm. See? Just like that. And you get that bottom bolt started in there. And then it's really easy to, I'll just tap that one home. And it's really easy to get the upper one in now, because all you do is just press in. Always put the lower one in first, and then you just press in on the whole strut assembly. And you can see how easily that lines up, putting very little pressure on it. So I do have a little trick for tightening this axle nut without somebody holding their foot on the brakes, without the wheel on the ground, none of that. 1/4 inch extension, shove it into the brake rotor there. This one fits nice. So just like that, that isn't going anywhere now. And now I can tighten that down without it moving. Of course, when you're torquing something, you want to just come down slowly. You don't want to use a jerking motion at all. You get that nice satisfying click. Once again, there we go. So you can see I've got the other side all buttoned up now as well. The one last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add about 1/2 quart of ATF. ATF plus 4. Make sure you put ATF plus 4 in your PT Cruiser. That's what they call for. And of course I lost a little bit when I took those axles out. So I'm going to add 1/2 quart. Then I'm going to drive it down the highway a bit. Let it get up to temperature. And then I'll check it again idling in park on level ground. And just top up as needed. So that's very important that you do that. You don't want to run your transmission low. Make sure that you get that topped up right away. Thanks for watching Matt's Garage. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and have yourself a great day.